We're free.
Just turn us on. It doesn't cost anything. 1480 WHBC. Live from the studios of News Talk 1480 WHBC, it's Kenny and JT.
We've been talking a lot today about March Madness in so many different ways, right? Stretch run for the Cavaliers in the NBA. We've got high school basketball tournament action tonight. WHBCSports.com. Jackson is at McKinley. Dan Belfort, good. Denny Kincaid calling the action there. The Buckeyes with a huge win over Purdue the other day, bettering their chances of getting into March Madness. We had Ronnie Stokes on the show earlier today, and now we go to the Division III level of March Madness in college basketball, where the Mount Union Purple Raiders, ranked 18th in the country, going to be participating in the big dance. And joining us right now is their outstanding head coach in his 15th season with the Purple Raiders, former Jackson High School head coach as well, Mike Fuline. Mike, how are you today?
My man Kenny, how you doing, buddy?
I'm better now that I'm talking to you, Coach. It's always great to catch up with you. And first and foremost, you may be the head coach of the Purple, but I know who the true head coach is of the Fuline family. How's the wife, Amy?
Everybody's good, brother, especially her. You know, it's that time of year where coaches' wives kind of get looked over a little bit, but we know how important they are, and especially when we're on the road, it's a lot. It's a lot for them. So, but she's excited. We're all excited to get going here. Well,
give her my best, and I know how to start these interviews. You go right to the head of the whole family, and that's her. So God bless her, Coach. Another outstanding regular season for you guys. 23-3. Now, it didn't end in the tournament the way you wanted to, where you might have had a home game, losing to Heidelberg for the second time. But take me through the entire year. How are you feeling about your team going into March Madness?
Yeah, we feel good. You know, we're still a very young basketball team, kind of different than what some of our teams in the past have been. But they've been with that youth has been some exuberance too. You know, they've bred some life into us, into the coaching staff, the program. The excitement they have for winning and playing for each other has been. You can see it all the way in September. So we didn't know how good we're going to be, but kind of shocked us all to start out 16-0.
Right.
To be honest with you, I don't think we were really a 16-0 team, but nobody was going to tell them that, you know. And then we had a rough week, like in basketball, everybody does, Kenny. You know,
Yep.
You go through some of those stages and then kind of bounce back with 7 in a row. And then, unfortunately, got outplayed, you know, in the tournament game. Heidelberg went on to win the tournament. Just got hot at the right time. You know, we weren't at our best. But, you know, those things are going to happen. You give me 23-3 with this group of guys, and the enjoyment we had, we'll take it every year.
Yeah, I know you will, Coach. And I want to go back to 16-0, though, and maybe how that can help you, because now you're on the road. Your big game, coming up in Newport News, Virginia, Friday. You take on Washington and Jefferson, and then if you win there, you're back at it again on the road. So you're playing on the road in this tournament this year. How much did those first 3 weeks of the season help you guys in playing all road games and in some tournament-type atmospheres?
Yeah, it was awesome, you know, and we found out a lot. We got to that 6th game, so we went back-to-back weekends on the road, probably spent about 30 hours on a bus, but we had a blast, man. We did, and that's what I mean. You know, sometimes when you have a younger team, they enjoy those things so much more than some of the older guys. You know, they've kind of been through it and done that before. But I think it was big just to be able to prepare for 2 teams and back-to-back nights, how your body's going to feel. And we talked about it then. You know, when we won that 6th game, I told them how proud I was of them. We were in Mount St. Joe's, and I told them this is for bigger things down the road. You know, when you get on the road in the NCAA tournament, like it's all right there in front of you. So hopefully those things paid off. I think in the NCAA tournament though, Kenny, as you know, it's more about matchups than anything else. So we're going to get on a bus, go 8 hours and play one really good team on Friday, and if we happen to win that one, another unbelievable team on Saturday.
Mike Fuline is our guest here on the Kenny and JT Show, head basketball coach for the Mount Union Purple Raiders in his 15th season. About 289 and 116 his winning percentage at 714 clip, 3 times in the Sweet 16, hoping to make that a 4th time here with the road trip, as he just called it. What can you tell me about W&J, Coach? I know they're 22-6. That's all I know coming out of the President's Athletic Conference.
Yeah, this is one of the best teams they've had in their history. They play so hard, play well together. 2 really good bigs that complement a style that, they like to play fast and press and get up and guard you a little bit. So, we've just kind of been preparing for that and how we want to attack it. But an excellent coaching staff, great team. So we got our hands full. And then in the second bracket is Christopher Newport, who beat us in the national championship game, and they're playing Stevens, who actually beat us 4 years ago here,
Wow.
in the tournament. So I don't know if they did all this on purpose to make me miserable or not, but it certainly seems like it. But we got our hands full. But you know how it is, Kenny. You got to play well at the right times. Got to be able to make some shots and guard like I know we can. And I think our defense has kind of helped us throughout the season, and we're going to need it times 10, this weekend coming up.
Yeah, okay. With Washington and Jefferson, Coach, do they remind you of anybody you've already played this year?
They're more like a Otterbein.
Okay.
They're like an Otterbein team who, came in second. They made the tournament as well. Just a kind of a physical, big, strong team. But the difference is they press. Man, this team presses, and they'll try to trap you all over the floor. So you just have to be able to handle it. The great thing about the OAC, is it gives you so many different types of teams and different things that you have to attack on a weekly basis. And that helps us, as we go into this tournament. So many teams are different, and you just got to adjust to who you're playing.
Coach, in Division III, for our listeners and our people that are watching on our YouTube channel and Facebook, is it a 64-team field in Division III?
Yep, it's just like the Division I. Yep,
Okay.
Instead of 68, we're 64.
All right.
The only difference is the higher seed hosts the 4-team pod. So after Saturday night, we'll be at 16, and then it's already seeded out the way, they did a great job this year of putting the 1 through 16 separate and hosting, which is crazy when you think about it, all the different teams across the country.
Right.
But that's what they did, so they're trying to protect those top 8 seeds and give them the best opportunity to make the tournament.
And you mentioned 3 teams from the OAC, Mount Union, Heidelberg, and Otterbein, and also John Carroll, an old OAC. So we've got 4 representatives from this neck of the woods. Speaks well to the kind of basketball that's being played in Ohio, right?
Yeah, it does. And I think on the women's side, there might be 7 or 8 Ohio teams as well. But, the talent level around here is second to none. We're going to a place where it might be even better, around the Christopher Newport, Randolph-Macon, Roanoke. All these teams are – Marion, Washington, they're like in the top 4 or 5 in the top 10 in the country, all within about an hour away. So it's good basketball. And I think anyone who's watched – this level, I preached about it for years. I'm kind of done talking about it. I think the people who I know and who like to follow Mount Union already understand how good it is here.
Coach, give me a little idea of some of the key players for your team that's led you to this 23-3 record and another trip to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, a couple Stark County guys. Elijah Farrington was the player of the year in the OAC as a junior from Massillon High School. He's been tremendous for us. He had a great start and then kind of was a little banged up during the middle of the season, and then has really kind of brought it on here at the end. So we need him to play tremendous. And Chance Heiser, obviously everybody knows who listens from Lake, just a warrior, man. He's just my kind of dude, man. Just a kind of a dog, man. He goes at it. He was so sick last week and played and still had 22. The things he's been able to do, and on both sides of the floor has been awesome. So we kind of lean on those 2 guys quite a bit, and some senior leadership that we have from Caleb Lorich, and we have Dante, he was the only one guy who had played against Christopher Newport before. He's the only guy left from that championship team. Okay. And then we have a guy named Kevin Hamilton, who was a transfer in. He played at St. Vincent St. Mary. A point guard who's a little bulldog as well. So, and Kevin Moore, another senior that we have, who from Youngstown area, probably the best defender I've ever seen. All those guys. But I can keep going on. We have so many freshmen kids we don't even really get a lot of minutes to, who can really play as well. So the future's bright.
Yeah, it sounds like it is, and the president is pretty bright as well as you play Washington and Jefferson Friday. Tip-off at 3:15 p.m., Coach, on a Friday. How do you, get ready for that? Because that's not a normal Friday tip-off time, is it?
It's not, but let's get to this bus ride first.
Okay.
I'm getting old for these things, brother. So we're going to take off, tomorrow afternoon and about 7.5 hours,
right?
Towards Virginia. But the good news is the weather's around 75 or 80. I haven't seen that in about 5 months, so we're all excited to kind of see what the sun looks like a little bit, and then have a couple really good days of practice. And then, we play at 1 on Saturdays, so the 3 o'clock to us won't. I mean, we kind of prefer it instead of sitting around all day. It just that makes a real long day and night. So we want to play that game and then hopefully win and watch the second one and then move on to Saturday.
And kind of a little redemption. If you get by that first game, you're going to meet one of those two teams that beats you, right, Coach? I got to believe somewhere in that pregame speech there might be a message of that if it happens.
The one thing I've noticed as I've gotten older is, my revenge or our staff's revenge isn't theirs. They were still in high school, maybe in middle school when some of these things happened. So, it's just kind of giving myself a pep talk.
Right.
But, I think sometimes, too, I mean, they know the history. And, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Ken. We watched Newport the last couple of days on film. And, I mean, it's just a whole different speed, my man. It's a whole different level. But we're going to be ready to go. We got to get through that first game and play like crazy and then let it loose, let it loose on the second day.
Mike Fuline is our guest here on the Kenny and JT Show. Fabulous head coach for the Mount Union Purple Raiders boys basketball team, I should say men's basketball team in his 15th season. And Coach, for you guys to get a win against W&J, what are going to be the keys on Friday come 3:15 and hopefully about 2 hours later you are looking to see who you're playing on Saturday?
Yeah, we're going to have to handle the pressure. I think the teams that they beat, they ended up being 4 teams in the OAC this year. And I've talked to all the coaches, and they just tell me the same thing. You got to handle their pressure. They have a 6'8" guy that's on the ball in their press and real athletic, long and lanky. So we have to do that. Now, the good news is, we've faced that throughout the season at different times. So we know what it looks like. We know what it looks like. And then once we settle in, I think we'll be okay. I think once the game continues to go on, we kind of go to where the flow of the game is going. And then we just got to rely on our defense. I mean, we've had games where we've been absolutely tremendous defensively. We're second in the country in block shots. We just have to be able to fly around and get some deflections. And I think when we do that, especially on the road, it's really helped us win basketball games.
Yeah, well, we're pulling for you, Coach. Also, how about tonight? We've got Jackson at McKinley in a tournament game here tonight, a 10 versus a 4 seed this early in the tournament. How about that one for your Polar Bears?
It's crazy. Don't get me started on how all this stuff is set up now. It drives me crazy. I try to avoid it. I try to avoid it with 7 divisions. I can't keep up. You win a game, you're a district champ. It's crazy, man. But I wish them all the best. There's some really good basketball around this area. I know Hoover's having a tremendous year, and my guy Josh at Massillon has been tremendous as well, man. And those guys work so hard at it. They all work hard at it, and this is the time of year, man, where it pays off and you get to cut some nets down and celebrate with your community.
Well, we're hoping that happens for you as well at Mount Union. Coach, we always appreciate the time you make for us. Thanks so much. Best of luck, and hopefully we'll be talking to you next week about that Sweet 16 trip, all right?
I hope so, buddy. I hope so. I appreciate it, man. Take care.
All right.